Committee of 300. Basically, these are who people consider the Illuminati or whatever. Um, these are, your Harry Kissinger, that evil pawn scum, George Soros, the Gates, Bill Gates, all these people, basically all the people that the conspiracy theorists talk about, the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, and a whole host of others. Kings and queens and princes and pretty much all royal families. Um, you know, Pretty much going throughout Europe. Anyway, the Bilderbergers, they're all the same group. And there's about 300 of them that make the heavy decisions and stuff like that. And of course, you've got your like stonemasons and, stonemasons, Freemasons, and your, skulls and bones. And there could be up to like, I think, 800 skulls and bones members, at any one given time because they only allow 15 people a year type of thing and that type of thing. And I guess, you go from the point from when you can get in from college to the point you die, to the oldest person, works out to about 800 people a year. So you have all these influential secret societies and stuff like that. And I was listening to John Lennon. Now, John Lennon, love him or hate him or whatever, he was very in tune with the powers that be. He was very in tune that there was something wrong and stuff like that. And he said, stuff that, all you need is love. I mean, okay, there you go. And he's right. Very simple, it does hit the nail on the head. All you need is love. If everybody has love, you don't have to worry. But he also, now, his career with him and Yoko Ono, obviously was kind of, it wasn't exactly what I would call stellar, But they did do a thing, being peace activists and everything like that. They made these posters, and there was a poster that said, "The war is over," and they would put it in people's windows and get people to put it in their windows. And underneath there was, "If you want it to be," And the point he makes there, I think, hits the nail on the head again. If people were to say, you know what, we're not going to war with ISIS. We're not going to war in Ukraine. We're not going to war with Russia. We won't go to war with them. I've always said you have 100 people, 99 want peace and one wants to go to war. You're going to go to war because usually the person that wants to go to war trumps all the other people. But if you have 99 people stand up to the people that want to go to the war, usually you don't end up going to war. The people do have the power, and that's one thing John Lennon said was, if people realize the power that they actually have, and this includes law enforcement, military, and stuff like that. You know what? You don't have to follow these corrupt orders. Your job's not worth it. You can quit your job if you don't want to follow the orders. Quit your job. That type of thing. Or if you could get brave law enforcement, military. Again, I'm not doubting law enforcement, military are brave when they're going after the bad guys and stuff like that. But they need to step it up. They need to really earn their paycheck on this one. What they need to do is get together with some good prosecutors, some good attorneys, and just basically, here's the charge: crimes against humanity. Start with Joe Biden. He pretty much laid everything out for you, and anybody you can spin off there. With again, using the CIA, you even going to have to arrest directors of the CIA. Again, the people who made all this misery happen for people. It's genocide. It's punishable by death, let alone law. It's treason. Okay. So what they need to do is basically arrest these people, put them in jail, never let them see the light of day again. Now, the other thing is, and this is something what we're seeing between Russia now with Vladimir Putin, him being ex-KGB, you never really know what this what side he's actually playing. And right now, it's hard to say what we're seeing. Are we seeing World War III unfolding in front of our eyes, or very well scripted play? Scenario number one: Putin is out to conquer the world. Okay, that's scenario number one. That's the narrative they're putting on the TV and stuff like that. Putin's out to conquer the world. Now, he is going around the US dollar, okay, and destabilizing it. Now, this benefits the one world government in the sense that if the US dollar crashes, everybody else's currency will crash, with the exception of probably the Russians and the Chinese, because they're detaching from it. They'll hit hardship too, sure, but they're detaching from the US dollar, and all, many BRICS nations are as well. If that happens, the IMF has their own currency that they want to issue ready to go. There's your one world government currency. We already have a one world military police, which is basically the United Nations peacekeepers and NATO. So we already have that. The next thing is just to implement it everywhere. They'll do that during times of revolution. Again, to be a blue helmet in this day and age is very dangerous. And trust me, people will be shooting at peacekeepers and stuff like that are so-called peacekeepers. Why? Because people don't want the UN in their country. The UN is the big, they're corrupt to the core, and they're run by the Committee of 300. Maybe not the people. Again, the people that run in the offices doing the day-to-day work. These people are compartmentalized. They have no idea what they're really working for. And then, of course, you have your leftist groups that are just, they always think anything the UN does is a good thing. They don't realize how much evil the UN actually does for the little good that they do. And I'm not saying the people are bad, but the people that run it, they have agendas. They have very clear agendas, and depopulation is one of them. Global governance is the other. Again, you're looking at Agenda 21 type of stuff, right? So with that, you also have the Trilateral Commission. You have the not League of Rome. Anyway, to do with the Vatican and stuff like that. So there's all these 4 or 5 major groups that are headed off by these 300 people, and of course it works with George Soros, kind of being one of the person that does all the organizing for the Rothschilds. But then you've got Vladimir Putin there. What side is he playing? Because about 2 years ago, he put out issued warrants for George Soros and Rothschild banking cartel. But yet he plays very well with Israel. He's got a gas deal going with Israel. Now that might be going the way of the dodo. That's hard to say. So again, it's hard to say what side Putin's playing, because the first scenario, like I say, being he's out there just to conquer the world. The second one is he's fighting the New World Order for his New World Order, because he's not a good guy. He's not a good guy. Putin's not a good guy. He's a puppet like Obama's a puppet. He's just on the other side. Again, the world is divided into two: the transatlantic Anglo-American banking system and the Eurasian Pacific banking system, right? So maybe Putin's fighting against that, or maybe, like, again, the world's a stage and they're both in on it together. And it's hard to say. But if he did put issues against warrants, against like Harry Kissinger and George Soros. I know him and George Soros don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but George Soros is a scumbag. Like, Putin is a saint in comparison to George Soros. How that man's walking around, again, someone's going to put a bullet in. I'm not making any threats, but someone's going to put a bullet into that cretin. I mean, he screws too many people over. He screws countries over. He destroys countries. And then same with Harry Kissinger. How this man's walking around free, I don't know. The Bushes, all them, and Obama as well. Again, I think these elites, their days are numbered. To be honest with you, you can't screw 90% of humanity, 99% of humanity over 99% of the time, and not expect a pitchfork revolution. Now the thing is most of the revolution is misguided. Now I even heard this on Alex Jones, and I know a lot of people don't just come out and say it, but I've been talking about it all in all, because a lot of people don't want to say things like this because they're afraid that, at some point freedom of speech will be completely illegal anyway, and I'll be arrested or I'll disappear in the night from making videos like this anyway. I'm making no threats. I'm just saying, as of observation of what normally goes on around the world in history, that when the revolution comes, the difference we have in this time period that we didn't have in World War II or World War I is that, yes, the masses are dumbed down, the masses are stupid, and you can't wake them up, and they'll turn on each other, which is what the globalists want. Problem is, it's that probably less than 1% of people that know who did this to us. They're going to go hunting. You can refer to the people that take to the streets, like what you're seeing in Ferguson right now as the Hydra. Renounce government, hail Hydra. We're out there for the cause, whatever the cause might be. But they never focus on the actual people that did it. Then you're going to have what I call the hellhounds, which these call them spies or spooks with conscience, whatever. Maybe again, because these Committee of 300, they're basically mob. That's what they're basically mobsters. Yeah, they're royalty and stuff like that. Well, the way they operate like mob. The banking system is a cartel. Dumb criminals sell drugs, smart criminals get into central banking. It's that simple. So these people are going to be picked off left, right, and center, and watch for it, because you're going to start to see it. I think probably within 2015. I mean, you're already seeing bankers get knocked off. So these are the lower level bankers. So what happens is that these lower level bankers and some high level bankers too, that maybe people that can testify. So what I'm thinking is that yes, Putin probably does have warrants issued for these criminals, like Tony Blair and stuff like that. But I know for sure against some of the Rothschilds and definitely George Soros. And I'm sure there's a lot of countries these guys can't go into. They are terrorists. They are terrorists. So when these hellhounds come out, they're just going to start knocking these people off. Now, one thing I made a comment on, and some people said, that the elites are going to be so well protected, and they're going to be hiding in their bunkers and stuff like that to weather out the storm. Yeah, but that's going to be their tombs. They're never going to be able to hire enough people. They're never going to be safe 24/7. They're never going to be safe 24/7. When the people, because again, right now people don't listen to people like me because I'm considered what you call conspiracy theorist or whatever. But however, I'm talking about things that have actually happened, and I do speculate on a lot of things that might happen that usually end up happening. But I see it it's not a big leap for me to see it as, okay, once the banker bail-ins come in, again, it's not going to be the guy with $50 in his bank account that's going to go after him. I mean, it might be, but it's going to be the person that got like 100 million taken from them. The one that still has the extra 130,000 under the pillow to hire a hitman. Those type of people. Those are the people that are going to go knocking off the elites. Why? Because they're in that circle of people anyway. They know where they are. Mob people know where everybody is. They know where the hiding spots are. Yeah, that's how they, the upper echelons of mobsters don't get there by being stupid. You know what I mean? They get there by knowing things. Information is valuable. So to think that these elites are going to be able to, well, they'll be able to, what, they're going to live on, look, they'll be like, here's kind of an example, Julian Assange. Are you going to live in a compound the rest of your life? You might as well be in jail. You know what I mean? Again, because these people will never ever be able to go out. Again, when Buckingham Palace, they're already hiring extra armed guards there. I mean, when Buckingham Palace is surrounded by angry mobs of pitchforks, they're coming in. I mean, it's going to be a human wave, but people are coming in. Those people will just be, ripping stuff off the walls and stuff like that. Where's the Queen going to go? I mean, she's got a million places she can go, sure. But then the people that are going to be hunting her down, and yes, the Queen's a part of this. The Queen's a major part of this. I'm not making threats against anybody, but I mean, if you can't see it coming, I mean, especially if you're law enforcement, you're military, or NSA, or CIA or DHS, and you're watching videos like this, you guys have massively better intelligence. With all the spying, you could very easily find out that everything I'm telling you about makes sense and is true. And again, it won't take very much more, I don't think, for humanity to... I think we'll go into a revolution before we go into a war, or it might just happen simultaneously. Because, again, when people lose everything, they lose it. So the next banker bail-in, which I think is going to be coming in 2015. Look, even George Soros said, yeah, 2015 is going to be a rough year. Revolution's coming, and this guy, okay, he usually says, do one thing, and he'll do the opposite. Same with Warren Buffett, again, all these cretins. Now, Warren Buffett doesn't seem like a bad guy, but he's a part of the New World Order system. He's not a eugenicist or anything like that. He's a tycoon. So you can't really get him on crimes against humanity, but you can get him for basically all these guys cook the books. I mean, these guys cook the books. Look, the Koch brothers, the richest people. They're the 85 most richest people in the world. Okay, but yet they were bankrupt. What, in 2008? Well, here's why they're the richest people in the world, because they took the money from everybody else. They basically robbed everybody blind. There's your retirements, there's your paved roads, there's your health care. You know what I mean? There you go. And yet, now, again, somebody's got to put them in jail before they destroy the planet, Oh, here's my cat. But cat's a cold. It actually holds out pretty good. I mean, it's like minus 15 out there right now, or 17. Eh? That is cold. That is cold. So, with that going on, again, where can the elites hide? Yeah, they can stay in their bunkers and stuff like that. They'll be safe for a while, but you get a human wave of angry mob, and it won't take much for people to actually get to that point. Okay, at first, because it's called. You think about it like this: it'll just be about directed energy. Okay, Right now, I've got a lazy cat, but if I were to move the chair, I could direct my cat's energy. I won't do that, but you see, he was about to jump. Yeah. And my other cat, look, I'll direct her energy by following her. She'll run into the room. So there we go. So you get the idea. You can direct energy. Now, take an angry mob. Right now, angry mob's mad at police officers. Okay, and rightfully so, but for the wrong police officer. But if anything, yeah, I mean, they don't look at any of the white people that get shot that are unarmed. And I made this alluded to this in a previous video. That here's two things that I did in my last societal decay video that I mentioned, and somebody said when I talked about basically, how kind of government basically wants a victim class. They want a welfare class because that's control. It's slavery. If you can promise people that you're always going to give them just a little bit more and that someday you're going to get more from welfare, you're going to get more from this, that, and the other thing, more social benefits, that's enslavement. It's a handout, but not really. It's never enough to actually, I mean, look at all the single mothers out there, for example, and that was one of the examples I used. They just never get out of the rut, And why? Because they never get enough money to go back to school and stuff like that. And that they never get out of where they are, unless they really, really push hard. I mean, I only know a handful of single mothers, and I'm sure there's lots of them out there, that actually said, you know what, I'm not going to raise my kids on welfare. I'll hire a babysitter and away I go. I'm going to, go to school. I'm going to do this and do that. And I mean, they worked really hard to get there, and now they're living good, with their kids, especially how expensive it is to take care of kids. So I said at some point, it's insolvent. You can't have all this welfare programs and have everybody afford. It's unaffordable. So people are. Either they cut them down so much that they just, they can't do anything, or they cut them off, right? And people say, well, you can't cut off women and children. So you're missing the point. The point is the government never pays enough, nor will they pay enough. And yes, they will cut off these people. It doesn't matter if you think it's your right or whatever. The government doesn't give you rights; they take rights away. And the worst thing you can do for people is encourage them to stay on welfare. That's the worst thing you can do. They don't wait for anybody. Get moving. Get moving or you're going to die. That's the worst thing ever. So it doesn't matter if you think it's morally right or wrong. The thing is that it will be taken away at some point. So you're going to have all these single moms there, that are going to be basically freaking out when a societal collapse comes from economic collapse, or just what we're seeing, that slow bleed out where they just keep kicking the can down the road and everybody is gradually becoming more poor. And again, nobody can afford anything right now. People, it's not that they don't want the deals that's going on the Black Fridays and stuff like that. It's people can't afford it. People just don't have money. They're saving it for the precious things like food. Paying rent, that stuff thing. So the people that go out to take to the street to protest for more social benefits, they're missing the point. The social benefits, there's not enough money for all of them. Can money be allocated from one area to another? Yes, that's what I'm always talking about with government. It's an either or. You can have this, or you can have that. You can have war all over the place, or you can have your retirement. You choose. But you have to choose wisely, and you have to choose loudly, so that the government hears you. Problem is the bankers, they're not listening. So these people will be desperate. They will take to the streets and protest and stuff like that. Government, they're not worried about these people. Why? Because there's no harm. Your anarchists, the ones that love anarchy and chaos, the bloc protesters, the what I call the anarcho-communist, big contradiction, but again, I mean, these people are kind of messed up in the head anyway. Basically what I call the communist student that always protests for free stuff. You've seen it in the pots and pans revolution here in Montreal. Well, I'm not in Montreal, but 2 hours, east of me, or 2.5 hours east of me. You got Montreal. Protesting for free stuff. We got the extremely nutbag Parti Québécois leader, Pauline Mauvois. We had her for a year and a half, and people said, enough of that free stuff. We've lost half our jobs in Quebec. So people, they ousted her peacefully. Okay, but the thing is that that's this time. Okay, now she's nowhere at the level of the Rothschilds or anything like that, and she's just a nut job, right? So people had enough of that. Now the new guy, okay, Philippe Couillard, Okay, he's doing austerity. The people don't like it. Again, what? We don't have the money. We don't have the money. In Ontario, for example, you've got Kathleen Wynne out there begging for a meeting with the Prime Minister. Now, some people say it's not good. But you have to understand, no matter how it goes, Harper's going to get villainized anyway. Couillard, okay, he's a Liberal, okay, and he's doing austerity. Liberals, he's actually doing what a classic Liberal would do, hug the middle of the line. Look, our budget, we've blown our budget. We can't afford all the programs that we have. We've got to get rid of some. But what are they going to get rid of? Well, this is where, depending on how your economy's doing, Canada's economy is basically hugging the line. But we, right now, are in a position with all the fuel, the barrels of oil dropping like a rock because of Saudi Arabia. Again, that's more to destabilize Russia, but that will destabilize us. Why? Our economy is pretty much solely built on the oil sands right now. That's the only thing. When the transfer payments stop coming from Alberta, and this is the thing, this is what ticks off Albertans the most, is that you have Ontario, people in Ontario, people in, Quebec and stuff like that, that bash Alberta for the oil sands, but yet they have no problem taking the transfer money. Same in BC. It's like, which is it? You can't be a hypocrite. You can't take the money. If you're really principally against it, you say, okay, well, how about you, cut off the transfer payments? They're going to be cut off anyway. Why? Because the oil sands aren't going to make a profit next year. They can't at, $66 a barrel. They just can't, right? Now, mind you, the government could trump that very quickly. Okay, sanctions against Saudi Arabia. It's like, we're not buying oil from them. I mean, why should their low oil prices screw us up so much? This is what people aren't understanding, because it's all linked, that's why. Same as the banking system. So now, I know I'm kind of diverting a bit, but this all plays in. This is going to get great unrest amongst the people. But most of the people think, maybe local politicians, stuff like that, and they'll scream and yell at them. And again, most people are of good nature and stuff like that. But in the States, it's much worse than what it is here in Canada. We're just behind the times. It's not that we're not going to get what everybody else is getting. We're just behind the times. Our banking system is a little bit better. Our interest rates are a little bit higher and stuff like that. And our economy is doing a little bit better. It's been steadily growing since the Harper government's got in, not by much, like, 1.5%, 2%, 0.5%. Like, it's just like hugging that line. But up is up, The thing is where the big drawbacks is we're too dependent on trade. Now in the States, it's what's the problem with the States is that they've got 92 to 96 million people out of work. That's out of 312 to 318 million people. Most of those people are going to take to the streets when everything just gets cut off. And it's not so much that the benefits get cut off. When the EBT card system gets, when they start rationing that, you're going to see riots everywhere. Ferguson is kind of a blueprint and a glimpse into the future of what the welfare riots are going to look like. But it's going to be everywhere. So the other thing is that it will destroy they'll destroy their own cities. They're going to loot every Walmart. They're going to destroy everybody's going to be out of a job because of this. Right, so the misery that's coming, and of course, this is a part of the goals of the Committee of the 300 is to have people either whacked out on drugs or starve. Some turkeys. See turkeys? Turkey. Big ass turkey. Some hens. The other day there was like 14 of them there. They're like, hey, mister, you going to fill up that bird feeder? They're like, you're not filling up that bird feeder. Look at them trying to sneak the sneaky faces. Silly turkeys. Anyway. There you go. If the world collapses, at least I have turkeys coming to my door. There you go. Yeah, they're like, gobble. Anyway. So people will be very upset, obviously. So the massive, because they're still dumbed down, still thinking that it's a local problem when they don't realize it's a globalism problem, and they don't realize that it's the people pulling the strings over there. But again, that 1 or 2% of people like myself, when everybody's lost everything, they're going to listen to people like me. They're not going to like what I have to say. I'm going to say, well, this is how we lost it because the banking system was corrupt. And we let it happen. Now's the time for us to put the bankers in jail. But you have to understand, when we put the bankers in jail, we're going to be we're going to get our asses handed to us because it's insolvent. It means once they stop doing the illegal stuff, the illegal Ponzi schemes of propping up these banks and propping up bail-in, bail-out, don't really matter. it's all going to collapse, and it's going to come down like a ton of bricks, and we're going to go back to the Stone Age overnight. It doesn't mean we won't rebuild quick, but it is going to be, government workers, again, this is the main reason why in Ontario, Tim Hudak didn't get, get elected. Government workers can't vote for him, even if they support him, support him, in principle. Problem is they'd be losing their own jobs, and that's the problem with the left, is the left keeps taking and taking and taking and taking and taking, and right now what they're trying to do is blame everything on capitalism, but we don't have capitalism. We have crony fascism. That's all we have. Every government in the world, with the exception of possibly Switzerland, even Switzerland is still, apparently their Swiss gold referendum didn't go through. I didn't think the bankers would let it happen anyway, but apparently 75% majority said, no, we're not going to go back to a gold standard. Okay, but they chose it. Fair enough. If it wasn't rigged, I mean, that sounds pretty lopsided, Or people are just that misinformed. I can't see the Swiss being that uninformed, considering their connections with gold, So with that, I mean, they have direct democracy. They can, trump their politicians and stuff like that. That's good. That's what we need here. We need to go to that. Let the people vote. If they want to vote for more socialism and then it breaks the system, well, then we'll learn from our painful experience. Problem is that. When everybody's out there starving to death, and again, this is Latimer Len, this is the same right out of his playbook. Look, when 20 million people starved to death, Latimer Len was like, this is great, it'll be great for our economy, we won't have all those useless eaters. You know what I mean? Yeah, these people are that evil. So you're going to have people like me out there saying, hey, well, this is how it worked. These are the families. There was about 300 families and about 8,000 people that made all this happen. And yes, there is no, again, when you see like Hillary Clinton win the next election, if she runs, I don't know. I think I'm seeing some kind of strange things happening, particularly with the Obama administration. I think they just pushed it too far, too fast. Why they're hurrying on this agenda, I don't know. And again, the agenda is global governance, but the way they want to accomplish it is through mass genocide, and it's just taking too long. You have to understand, most of these people, okay. They started in the 60s, but they've become so psychopathic. Like the generation, the Rothschild generation before them, they were patient. They were, we're talking like 100 years ago. They're like, okay, well, my great-great-great-grandkids are going to be destined to do this. Okay, this is what we're going to put into place now. People won't see it creep in. Okay, then the generation after that's like, okay, well, we're going to push it a little bit faster. We're going to do more socialism, but the idea is not to actually give any benefit to anybody. Again, the best social program you can have is a job. Well, what do? No, they don't give you jobs. They give you, mass immigration to take down your wages. Oh, but we have a labor shortage. Labor shortages are a good thing. They're a good thing. They're a great thing. Why? Because let's look at it this way. Okay, we're shipping in people now, to do the jobs that other people won't do. Well, but that's a ridiculous idea. Okay, if a job needs to be done, and people really want that job done, somebody will do it. Regardless of how much you pay. If it needs to be done, it'll be done. If it's not needed to be done, like all these fast food restaurants and stuff like that. Oh, we don't have enough people to fill the fast food restaurants. It's because people don't want to work in there. And if they don't want to work in there, it's because it's not paying well enough. If it's not paying well enough, they're not going to do it. So what did they do? Well, let's bring in people that were willing to take these jobs. But here's the problem with that. Now, I'm not saying that we can't say, okay, well, if there's a job shortage, this is a perfect opportunity for the hand-up approach, saying, okay, you, sir, live within walking distance of that restaurant, and you're on welfare. Here's what you're going to do. We'll give you 3 months. They'll find your own job. You can't find your own job. You're not going to sit on welfare for the rest of your life. You either go to school or take this job or get your benefits cut off. Fair. Oh, you can't do that. Yes, you can do that. And yes, you should do that. Because you have to push people to do the right thing from time to time, even if it's not easy. And not only that, that person will probably get the job. Once they start getting money in their hand, doesn't mean they're going to be responsible, but most people, once they start getting money in their hand, you'll see them change for the better. Why? Because then they can start to do things. Then they get motivated to do things. And then they say, you know what, I don't like this job. I'm going to get a better job. Or create a job. It's that type of thing. So, with all that kind of ideas going on, I know I'm kind of babbling, but it's kind of one of those days. I mean, it's minus freaking 17 or minus 15 right now. Of course I'm going to babble. The wind's coming straight at the house, too. I'm getting my Canadian flag, my New Zealand flag. Got a friend from New Zealand that gave us the flag. So yeah. So anyway, point is that when everybody's out in the street, the directed anger won't be, this will work for the globalists. It's already working for the globalists because it's just hysteria, and people, it's the law enforcement military that has to deal with them, not the globalists. It's not the bankers. The bankers don't go to jail. Only Iceland has done the right thing in 2008, put the corrupt politicians and bankers in jail. But it's the guys that are in the know, like myself, okay, that will be telling people, hey, this is why you have nothing right now. Basically telling you the stuff I'm telling you right now. Who did this to you? But it's not even guys like me that they have to worry about. Why? Because I'm passive. To me, I'm not going to try to save humanity if they're not going to try to save themselves. Like some people get I'll come along the odd YouTube channel. I tried to wake people up. You're missing the point. There's people that don't want to be woken up. Look, the Titanic had a great band. They played right till the water went over their heads. You know what I mean? They had a great band. Some people can't deal with reality. Some people can. You love those people, and you would hope for the best for them. But you have to understand that you cannot save everybody. Don't sweat it. It's nothing. Pompeii, they had lots of warnings at Pompeii. You know what I mean? Some people you just can't get through to. It's just the way it is. Thousands of years later, you can, or hundreds of years later, you can see it clearly where they should have listened to somebody that says, hey, I think the thing's going to blow. I'm getting my donkey, loading it up with some jugs of wine, and I'm out of here. That guy's crazy. Ah, crap, he was right. Here comes the molten ash. Poor people. But anyway, it's the people that work in the system that I think are going to be the biggest threat, and they are the biggest threat, because who's the HS preparing for? A war with veterans, a war with law enforcement military, active sheriffs. They're afraid of the sheriffs. Look, you had the Oath Keepers in Ferguson, okay? The Armed Guard, National Guard, or the police said, no, move along. Those buildings weren't being touched when you had armed men on the roofs with their AR-15s or on the roof. It's funny how those businesses weren't being touched. It works. But hey, guess what? You got to move along. You got people shooting at firefighters, okay? This is displaced rage, okay? Again, if you could, this is what the globalists do. You need to kind of counter them with their own game, so to speak, saying, okay, well, if they can get the rage against this police officer who actually was, again, there's so many other incidents that they could use for outrage, but this is the one that they probably shouldn't have used. Again, he had 8 witnesses saying no. He acted in self-defense. Put yourself in his scenario, you would have probably done the same thing. Or he could have been killed in the process. I mean, yeah, but he was an 18-year-old kid. Yes, but he was a large 18-year-old kid with a lot of power. This was, age, okay, I can understand if it was like a 5-year-old. It's like, okay, well, you're going to, a 5-year-old comes up and punches you. He's not going to hurt you. You know what I mean? Unless he punches you right in the nuts or something like that. But even at that, that this kid who just beat somebody up stealing a box of cigars, and people say, well, we don't know what it was about. Okay, you're in a store punching somebody, stealing their cigars. I think the video, even without the sound on, speaks for itself. You're not allowed to assault people, and so this kid, he's not a saint. I'm not saying he's a devil, but he's a troubled kid. And he proved that he was willing to do harm. And people are now, he went after the police officer's gun. I mean, the police officer, didn't shoot first. Enough happened to say that, okay, well, this police officer, I'm sure it happened really fast, but, he didn't just go right for his gun. He didn't go right for his gun, that type of thing. So you got people out there getting on the details of this thing. The reason why I shouldn't even get onto the details of this thing, because it's not relevant. The relevant is what is the reaction to it. Well, the reaction to it is they burnt down the community. They brought a whole bunch of people in from Chicago, people with Illinois plates, so maybe they're not just from Chicago, to come in and basically burn out the town of Ferguson and basically burn all the residents' businesses and stuff like that. Who does that? You know what I mean? And this is not just a black-white thing. This is a socially engineered thing. And it's very, very, very clear how they directed that anger towards Ferguson and the police and stuff like that. They didn't go burn down the police station. They went and burned down the businesses. Why? Because people, even psychotic, euphorically enraged mental cases have, moments of clarity saying, if I burn down that business over there, which has nobody there protecting it, I'll be okay. If I try to charge that police officer with a gun, I'm probably going to get shot. So even crazy people aren't stupid, you know what I mean? So they know this. So they direct the anger completely at, the system, okay? But they never have anybody ever come out and take ownership of it. They never have Obama saying, hey, wait a minute, maybe we should take a look at ourselves and say, hey, you know what? Maybe we should back off on the police state. Maybe we should question that no hesitation target training that we're giving the police officers. And if you don't know about the no hesitation targets, you should look them up. Very disturbing. And then you'll understand why. When you understand how the police train, you'll understand how the shootings happen. And that type of thing. So, what's Obama's answer to this? Well, the police need to have their body armor on, which I agree. Yeah, I mean, it is dangerous, And I don't see him saying, okay, well, we're going to take away the MRAPs, we're going to take away this. No, he's doing the opposite. He's actually ramping it up. He's going to give more police powers, more. I mean, meanwhile, this guy speaks out of both sides of his mouth. I mean, he's coming out and saying, oh, well, there's going to be justice in Ferguson. We can't have this kind of racism. Da, 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 da. Meanwhile, all the time, he's known exactly that this guy was going to get off. They didn't say, how about we just wait and see what the justice system, let due process go. Now they kind of say some stuff like that. But they'll say that, and then, they'll lead the speech in for about 5 minutes or whatever. And Eric Holder did the same thing. And then the end of the speech is just all on how, they really paint your mind to direct your anger towards the police system. And law enforcement guys, they know this. Alex Jones, I listened to him last night. Because had a lot of people, especially after the incident with Jakari Jackson and Joe Biggs. I call them the dream team because those guys work so well together. Like the guy that came up and basically harassed Jakari, and I don't think this guy was an agent provocateur. I think this guy was just legitimately angry. They're frustrated. It's like they don't know what to do. They're just, and when people lose everything, they lose it. That's what I think that guy was, So maybe he's an agent provocateur, but I doubt it. I think he's, there's some people that just go false flag, agent provocateur, that's all. No, there are legitimately angry people. It's not that it hasn't been brewed. It certainly has. But what you're seeing is basically genuine anger. Like, the people are freaking out. I mean, they're just, and it was done by design. So you got, people saying, calling in Alex, and they're actually bashing on Alex, and Alex, you're always telling us to be so passive and stuff like that, and then you call us terrorists for, whatever. Now, I agree with Alex on the, people shoot at firefighters, they're terrorists, yes, period. If they're burning down people, mom and pop's businesses, they're terrorists, yes. In definition, if you look it up in the dictionary, the actions you're seeing at Ferguson are terrorism. Now, that said, that's all the mainstream media wants you to focus on, to delegitimize any legitimate protest. Now, to tell you the truth, okay, I'm not for the people out there saying, okay, well, this officer should be prosecuted, because I think in this case the courts actually did the right thing. Not everybody's going to agree with me, but I do believe that they could take this another step further and say, okay, well, how about we question how the police train in the first place? Why are they so militarized? That type of thing. We could do that, but that's never going to happen. Why? Because that's not the narrative. You got the freaking patients running the asylum when it comes to government, right? Now, the thing is they think they can control this. Communists always lose control. And I call them communists. You might call them something else. You might call them crony capitalists or whatever. But these are people that just want to control people. They're psychos. And the thing is you got people calling into Alex Jones saying, when do we pick up arms? When do we actually have a revolution? Problem is, you don't want a revolution. You want a reset. Because if you, revolutions, South America is full of communist dictators and cartels. That's what revolutions get you. Unpredictable, because you create power vacuums. If you do not stand up for rule of law, then you have to exhaust that avenue. As painful as it might be, you have to exhaust that avenue. You have to get through to the law enforcement, military, the judges, the lawyers. You have to have, even if it's a class suit from the citizenry against. You could start with Obama, but I would start higher than Obama. I would go with the Rothschild banking system. Get them. Then from there, get the Rockefellers. From the Rockefellers, get Soros. From Soros, get whoever. Get Jamie Dimon, Goldman Sachs crowd, or JP Morgan crowd. You get the Goldman Sachs crowd. I don't know all the names. I mean, you got 6,000 to 8,000 people you got to track down that are running the world, that are screwing up the world. Those are the people. If they don't even have to be convicted. They just have to be charged. Here's why. Because at some point, they become toxic people. Nobody goes near them. Tony Blair, he can't go anywhere without being harassed. And rightfully so. Rightfully so. He should be in jail. I mean, look, Syria, we've got 1 million plus people right now in Syria that all of a sudden are not going to get any food. They're refugees, okay? These people, a lot of them are going to die. This includes women and children. And this is what happens when governments intervene on behalf of saving the women and children. This is what happens when you armed rebels and create a mass destabilization within a country, okay? And nobody's accountable for that? You got 1 million plus dead in Iraq. Last month there was like 1,200 people killed in Iraq. This didn't happen under Saddam's rule, that big bad tyrant. And nobody's accountable for that? No, well, it was the jihadists that did. Well, why are these jihadists are able to do what they're doing? Because we basically paid for them. Why are we arming these guys? By destabilizing these countries in the first place, that's where you go back to Colin Powell and Harry Kissinger and all those guys and George Bush and all. You get all the Bushes. Anybody that is linked in there, you need to get them and arrest them, charge them. Crimes against humanity. One charge. That's it. You can get it. Start with Joe Biden. His testimony pretty much implicates Saudi Arabia, Israel, everybody. They basically, you can get, and you don't even have to get them on modern things. You get them on stuff that, politicians are, there's no statute on murder. It doesn't run out. You can get it. Now on the banking system, the statute runs out after something like 7 or 10 years. Maybe we want to change that law, Again, these corrupt elites, if they don't face justice, the pitchfork revolution will be very bloody. And that's the thing that us prepper type of people kind of prepare for, because we know that people are not going to be rational in those times. And when the whole system collapses, it's going to be worse before it gets better. But I think in the long run, it will be better. I just stepped down a chicken. My dog's chicken. Where's my dog? She's still outside. Hope she's not frozen to the step. No, dog's here. Ain't not feeling good, eh, girl? Yeah, she's not feeling very well, so. I think she ate something, made her puke. She puked all over the floor the other day, and it was like so slimy. Oh, and like she puked from one end of the house to the other. It wasn't her fault. I mean, she was stuck inside and stuff like that, but oh well. Anyway. So anyway, yeah, so with that, Alex showing what he's talking about, saying, look, we need to go peaceful options first, but what he started doing that, what's your line in the sand? Well, some people say, well, when they start rounding people up into the FEMA camps, that's the line in the sand. But they're kind of doing that. They're not taking them to FEMA camps, but they're just rounding people up. They're already doing that. You know what I mean? So you could see, and then, or when they just start shooting civilians in the street, they're already doing that. You know what I mean? They have their henchmen out there already doing that. Again, there's a lot of great police officers out there, but there's a hell of a lot of bad ones too. They're already doing that. So we're already there. So what's going to happen is people that they're lying in the sand, they don't know what it is. People are not going to know what they're lying in the sand. They won't know until they know. And this is what makes revolutions unpredictable. People just snap. And this is what the DHS kind of knows, but they kind of don't know. And they don't realize that they're helping them. They're not. The DHS is not meant as to go and track down the Bin Ladens of the world. They're meant to stomp down on people here. Remember, the U.S. Constitution is null and void after the NDAA and the NDRP. Right there, when people really grasp that, they're going to be like, that's when you're going to get your 1776. Over what incident? I don't know. I don't think Ferguson is going to be it, but I think the next few incidents might be it. Because at this point, it's not a matter of false flags. It's just prop a few things up and just let the pattern take its course. And that's what the elites do. They don't actually have... no good crisis goes to waste is more of a theory they're using rather than actual, this idea that they're propping everything up. Maybe they are. I mean, there is some stuff you can tell that has a lot of anomalies in it, such as the Sandy Hook thing. You could tell that one was propped up, but, like anything, it's more the reaction to the incident than the incident that you need to look at. What are people doing? Like here in Canada, we had the thing on Parliament Hill. Yeah, it happened. I have friends that work there, and trust me, they're pretty freaked out about it. But it's a matter of time before something like that happens. But here's the thing, and another guy put a very interesting kind of spin on how he thought World War III was going to play it. He says, I don't think it's going to be like Russia or China or something like that. He says, with all these jihadists around the world, he says, it's just a matter of time before one of them gets a nuke. But he says, the thing is it's how it works. And he referred to this Japanese plant that's basically some sort of a weed. He says, it'll grow through anything with the exception of solid steel. It'll pretty much grow through it. He says, It'll grow its root 9 feet down, and then it just spreads out. And to get rid of it, you have to dig it right out. But it only takes something like 3/4 of a piece of a root to reinstate the whole plant. And you think you got rid of it, and then all of a sudden, a couple of years later, bang, this thing pops up again. And that's kind of how all these like ISIS kind of guys are. They just pop up, right? So he says, at some point, he says, hey, it's inevitable that these guys are going to do something really crazy. And I agree. I don't think the only thing is that they might pull off a nuke here, they might pull off a nuke there. I don't think they're going to, one of the scenarios he played out was, and this is possible too, is that they crack all the codes of nuclear silos, not every nuclear silo, but enough to launch on, again, every missile has 10 warheads pretty much. So you got 170 some odd countries, get a missile per, there's thousands of missiles. You never know. The other thing is, could be even easier than that, would be more some sort of biological weapon, which are, pretty easy to actually make. You can, do all kinds of horrible things to people, without them even knowing, you know what I mean? And they are. I mean, they already are. So that's a possibility. But I think a revolution is going to happen in the same way. The more they try to stomp it out, it's like bushfires in BC. I mean, the coals over the winter, it's minus something right now. Maybe over in BC it's not as cold, but the fires are out now. But next spring they're going to just come up from the ambers that are like 10 feet down that have been just kept incubated through the entire winter, and then the bushfires flare up again. It's like that, and that's what I think is going to happen with these revolutions. But the violent part of it, it's not until you start seeing the elites get knocked off. Now, in 2010, and this is, I think, where the coup started to kind of fester. There was basically a White House page that was put out saying that there was, trouble within the departments and they're getting it under control. And not a lot was said there, but there was basically the theme was that it seemed like there was struggles from within their departments. Now, you'd probably say, well, that doesn't make sense. That could be nothing. No, we're seeing it now. Look at all the people that are jumping off the Obama ship. Why? Because they know that at some point the pitchfork revolutions are coming. They know that if they keep following on this plan, their faces are way too public. The guys behind the scenes, they can keep doing this. Why? Because nobody's looking at... Look, Putin gets voted the most powerful man, okay? If you look at all the richest people in the world, okay, with the Rothschilds have a combined wealth of... $500 trillion or $700 trillion, and they don't even make it into the Forbes magazine. So how much money did they pay, or how much influence do they have to stay out of the magazine? Not to be put into the magazine, but to stay out of it. How come you never hear of these people on the TV? Look, you have the Rockefellers saying, well, maybe we're going to move, and they did this publicly, maybe we're going to move from a oil-based, profits and do something else. Because, and you even have some Rothschilds out there saying, well, maybe we've got to re-examine this whole banking system thing, because they know it's coming. Like they're committed. They have to follow through on it. They have to take it to another crazy level, because they know that at this point, they either get the pitchforks, the firing squad, or they're going to be hanging from lampposts. Now they could go to their bunkers, but it doesn't matter. People know where their bunkers are. There's no such thing as a secret bunker. Why? Because somebody built it. That's how they're going to find them, and the people who are going to find them are probably, or the people that are most likely to knock these people off, the people that work for them. Yeah, that's how sinister this is going to get. Why? Because the security guard that was at the gate with the Rothschilds, his little niece just died from a very treatable illness that hospitals no longer can carry because they're bankrupt, because cutbacks because they bailed out banks. You see what I mean? It's that kind of, and there's more people like that. Like I've always said, and I'm not making any threats, but the person to knock off Obama is going to most likely be somebody who voted for him. Why? Because he let them down the most. And again, most people, they go after the figures, the people in the public first. But the thing is at some point, and I agree with Adam Kokesh on this, that tyrannical government makes peaceful revolution impossible. And it's true. It's true. I never call for violence, but I do know it's coming. You're already seeing it. Ferguson is kind of, that's the sentiment. That's how people are feeling. Not every person, but you're seeing protests all across the country. Okay. That's just on one issue. Now you compound all these other issues, just day-to-day living and people struggling and people losing their jobs and all this stuff. That gets compounded. Now at first they'll just turn on each other. But again, there's always a group, and this happens every time in history, where a group of people or a leader or something comes out. And at first they seem like the Messiah. They seem like the person that's going to put it all straight. But then they usually end up tyrannical. They usually end up, their agenda gets pushed. Hitler would be a person like this. Stalin would be a person like this. Alexander the Great. Those type of people. They just kind of come out of nowhere. You know what I mean? And they lead, and people follow. Now hopefully it's a good person. Sometimes you win, most of the time you don't. So I guess I've got to wrap this up pretty soon. So I think the people that are going to be knocking off the elites, there's no place they can really hide. Yeah, they can. They'll be able to hide for a while, but it's the people from within the system that work up in those areas. Whenever call them spooks with a conscience, whatever, hellhounds, whatever you want to refer to them as. When they start saying, okay, well, I know what this person does. I mean, you'd be surprised how much knowledge the average security guy. I mean, you can't be a security guy sitting in a room with the world elites and not hear what they're talking about. And when they know, again, sometimes money just loses its value, and that's the big one. When the money loses its value, then when it's no longer about money, then it becomes about principle, and then people will do whatever they do. So at that point, you're going to start to see, bankers being suicided, really powerful people all of a sudden just dropping dead. How did that happen? So anyway, I guess I'm babbling now, so I guess I'll leave it at that. So if you like this kind of content and you want to help out the channel, there'll be a link down below, and thank you to everybody who has. You can make a donation. Rate, subscribe, share, comment, like, be true to yourself, be true to others, and always do the right thing. So have a great day, eh? Yay, hi, welcome. Okay, the Committee of 300. Basically, these are who people consider the Illuminati or whatever. These are, your Harry Kissinger, that evil pawn scum, George Soros, the Gates, Bill Gates, all these people, basically all the people that the conspiracy theorists talk about, the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, and a whole host of others. Kings and queens and princes and pretty much all royal families. Pretty much going throughout Europe. Anyway, the Bilderbergers, they're all the same group. And there's about 300 of them that make the heavy decisions and stuff like that. And of course, you've got your stonemasons and stonemasons, Freemasons, and your Skulls and Bones, and there could be up to I think 800 Skulls and Bones members. At any one given time, because they only allow 15 people a year, type of thing, and that type of thing. And I guess you go from the point from when you can get in from college to the point you die, to the oldest person, works out to about 800 people a year. So you have all these influential secret societies and stuff like that. And I was listening to John Lennon. Now, John Lennon, love him or hate him or whatever, he was very in tune with the powers that be. He was very in tune that there was something wrong and stuff like that. And he said, stuff that, all you need is love. I mean, okay, there you go. And he's right. Very simple, it does hit the nail on the head. All you need is love. If everybody has love, you don't have to worry. But he also, now, his career with him and Yoko Ono, obviously was kind of, it wasn't exactly what I would call stellar, But they did do a thing, being peace activists and everything like that. They made these posters, and there was a poster that said, "The war is over," and they would put it in people's windows and get people to put it in their windows. And underneath there was, "If you want it to be," And the point he makes there, I think, hits the nail on the head again. If people were to say, you know what, we're not going to war with ISIS. We're not going to war in Ukraine. We're not going to war with Russia. We won't go to war with them. I've always said, you have 100 people, 99 want peace and one wants to go to war. You're going to go to war, because usually the person that wants to go to war trumps all the other people. But if you have 99 people stand up to the people that want to go to the war, usually you don't end up going to war. The people do have the power, and that's one thing John Lennon said was, if people realize the power that they actually have, and this includes law enforcement, military, and stuff like that. You know what? You don't have to follow these corrupt orders. Your job's not worth it. You can quit your job. If you don't want to follow the orders, quit your job. That type of thing. Or if you could get brave law enforcement, military. Again, I'm not doubting law enforcement, military are brave when they're going after the bad guys and stuff like that. But they need to step it up. They need to really earn their paycheck on this one. What they need to do is get together with some good prosecutors, some good attorneys, and just basically Here's the charge: crimes against humanity. Start with Joe Biden. He pretty much laid everything out for you, and anybody you can spin off there. With again, using the CIA, you even going to have to arrest directors of the CIA. Again, the people who made all this misery happen for people. It's genocide. It's punishable by death, let alone law. It's treason. Okay. So what they need to do is basically arrest these people, put them in jail, never let them see the light of day again. Now, the other thing is, and this is something what we're seeing between Russia now with Vladimir Putin, him being ex-KGB, you never really know what what side he's actually playing. And right now, it's hard to say what we're seeing. Are we seeing, World War III unfolding in front of our eyes, or very well scripted play? Scenario number one: Putin is out to conquer the world. Okay, that's scenario number one. That's the narrative they're putting on the TV and stuff like that. Putin's out to conquer the world. Now, he is going around the US dollar, okay, and destabilizing it. Now, this benefits the one world government in the sense that if the US dollar crashes, everybody else's currency will crash, with the exception of probably the Russians and the Chinese, because they're detaching from it. They'll hit hardship too, sure, but they're detaching from the US dollar, and all, many BRICS nations are as well. If that happens, the IMF has their own currency that they want to issue ready to go. There's your one world government currency. We already have a one world military police, which is basically the United Nations peacekeepers and NATO. So we already have that. The next thing is just to implement it everywhere. They'll do that during times of revolution. Again, to be a blue helmet in this day and age is very dangerous. And trust me, people will be shooting at peacekeepers and stuff like that are so-called peacekeepers. Why? Because people don't want the UN in their country. The UN is the big, they're corrupt to the core, and they're run by the Committee of 300. Maybe not the people. Again, the people that run in the offices doing the day-to-day work. These people are compartmentalized. They have no idea what they're really working for. And then, of course, you have your leftist groups that are just, they always think anything the UN does is a good thing. They don't realize how much evil the UN actually does for the little good that they do. And I'm not saying the people are bad, but the people that run it, they have agendas. They have very clear agendas, and depopulation is one of them. Global governance is the other. Again, you're looking at Agenda 21 type of stuff, right? So with that, you also have the Trilateral Commission. You have the not League of Rome, anyway, to do with the Vatican and stuff like that. So there's all these 4 or 5 major groups that are headed off by these 300 people, and of course it works with George Soros, kind of being one of the person that does all the organizing for the Rothschilds. But then you've got Vladimir Putin there. What side is he playing? Because about 2 years ago, he put out issued warrants for George Soros and Rothschild banking cartel. But yet he plays very well with Israel. He's got a gas deal going with Israel. Now that might be going the way of the dodo. That's hard to say. So again, it's hard to say what side Putin's playing, because the first scenario, like I say, being he's out there just to conquer the world. The second one is he's fighting the New World Order for his New World Order, because he's not a good guy. He's not a good guy. Putin's not a good guy. He's a puppet like Obama's a puppet. He's just on the other side. Again, the world is divided into two: the transatlantic Anglo-American banking system and the Eurasian Pacific banking system. Right. So maybe Putin's fighting against that, or maybe, like, again,